Unbelievable. Last night we already broke through the $100,000 mark for Bitcoin on several exchanges. In the past few weeks, we've only been going in one direction straight up. It's really crazy what's happening here. This is, of course, partly due to the FOMC meeting because of Jerome Powell's statement, but also because Trump announced a few things yesterday. We'll go through all of this in this video. We'll talk about it at the beginning, and then later in the video, we'll delve into what a lot of people are currently overlooking, the connections we actually have here regarding the entire crypto market. Also a very, very intense thing. But before we get into that, friends, I rely on your support. Give the video a like and leave a comment, especially in these market phases. I am extremely dependent on your support, so please give something back to me. And honestly, what have I shown you in the past weeks? I've often shown you that we have tested our 200 moving average here. And I told you every time that happened, we were nicely on the rise afterward. And currently, that's exactly what's happening again. We are currently rising very, very nicely. And that was actually quite clear. That's what I've mentioned to you several times in the videos over the past weeks. The crazy thing is that we are now almost back at $100,000 per Bitcoin. But in the end, we don't really have much futures interest. What is happening here is that most of the interest comes from spot purchases by large investors. But everything we've just seen is not happening in euphoria. Most investors are still a bit skeptical and are not yet in complete euphoria. Nevertheless, we have a significant imbalance in leveraged positions. Many more people are currently long than short, and we currently have 9 times more long positions than short positions. This is a ratio that should not exist. This ratio is definitely not good, and this ratio could also cause us to correct and reach certain zones, because down here we see at $98,000, $96,000. There is definitely quite a bit of liquidity there. Maybe we'll tap into that again and then continue to rise. I could definitely imagine that, but I still believe we will break through the $101,000 mark for Bitcoin in the coming days. I have already announced in the VIP trading group that we will reclaim these zones, even if we might correct briefly again, but we will tackle these zones in the near future. We currently have a very bullish sentiment again. It could also be that we will actually reach a new all-time high in the coming weeks. And actually, the FOMC meeting yesterday wasn't really so good that one could say, oh, we are rising now. We didn't see any change in interest rates. Jerome Powell also said that inflation remains elevated, and the risk of rising unemployment is increasing. Currently, there are no interest rate cuts in sight. The focus is on maximum employment in the labor market and price stability. Jerome Powell also said that if tariffs are not reduced, we will very likely see rising inflation, less growth, and higher unemployment. All of this would push the economy down significantly. In summary, one can simply say that we currently do not have the economic data to justify reducing tariffs. Of course, the next interest rate cuts would be interesting. Here, it is also important that inflation falls below 2% and that these tariffs are truly rolled back. This means that actually the announcement last night wasn't that great. Jerome Powell could definitely have said better things than that. However, he remains true to his line, which isn't all that bad. What probably caused us to rise so sharply yesterday is the fact that Trump announced he would unveil a really big trade agreement today at 10 o'clock in the morning, American time. Yes, it is supposed to be a really big announcement. He has really hyped it up. However, it is said that it will likely be the trade agreement with England. Yes, and in the end, it's not that big of a deal, to be honest. I think people were more speculating on China or India or something like that. And besides, Trump also announced yesterday that our economy is doing well, but it will experience growth in the near future. You haven't seen that yet. So the economy will boom. I'm curious to see. That's just another typical Trump thing. Just talking a lot, pushing the markets, and simply liquidating certain zones. And surely he is also working with the market makers in this regard. It definitely remains exciting. He certainly made some nice announcements yesterday. Let's see what really comes of it.
After showing you over the past few days that Bitcoin dominance, excluding stablecoins, is actually back at an all-time high and almost at the level of the last cycle, today we need to talk about what's actually happening with the stablecoins. Because the stablecoin Bitcoin dominance is almost at a completely new all-time high. And it gets interesting here if we see a decline. But we are also in a risk-off area here. This means that people are not very risk-averse here. However, I will now show you charts that people are not really aware of, but which are extremely crucial and simply show us that we will continue to rise with Bitcoin in the coming weeks and months, and why we are really seeing the next upward trend here. Because let's just take a look at the stable coins as a whole. we can simply see that we kept building up stablecoins until the Terra Luna crash in 2022 happened. A lot of money flowed out of the stablecoins here, of course. Since then, however, we have been continuously building up again. Stablecoins are increasingly gaining in market capitalization. Now I've pulled out a special chart for you here. This is the chart of stablecoin dominance. The stablecoin dominance is calculated from all stablecoins combined. We can see here that the stablecoin dominance decreased significantly after the Terra Luna crash. We then slowly stabilized, and since then, we've been fluctuating again. And every time we see strength in stablecoin dominance and more capital flows into stablecoins, we notice that we actually tend to stagnate. When the stablecoin dominance falls, cryptocurrencies also rise. And I'll show you this if we just add Bitcoin here. Let's include this chart here. You can see it perfectly here again. Since the Terra crash, we've had a declining stablecoin dominance the entire time. Accordingly, we were able to perform with Bitcoin the whole time. Only when we saw strength again in stablecoins did Bitcoin stagnate and even correct. But since we have fallen again in stablecoin dominance, we were able to complete the next big upward trend. Currently, the stablecoins were quite strong again. Accordingly, we have also stagnated here and seen a correction. Currently, however, we see again that stablecoin dominance is massively decreasing, and we also see the next upward trend in Bitcoin. These folks are the things you should pay attention to in the background. Every time stablecoin dominance decreases, the money is shifted into Bitcoin, which benefits our cryptocurrencies. And by now, we already have over $240 billion just in stablecoins. So the stablecoins have never been as large as they are now. We simply have a lot of capital on the sidelines here, ready to be invested. But this money is not being invested yet. The money will only be invested once we have clarified certain things here. For example, when we see a drop in Bitcoin dominance, and then fall back into the area where people are more risk tolerant. What do you think? How much capital will flow out of the stablecoins and back into Bitcoin and other altcoins? This means that in recent months, more and more capital has been entering the markets all the time. We are also seeing this in recent weeks with the Bitcoin ETFs. In the last few days and weeks, a massive amount of money has flowed in again. I believe that within a month, almost $15 to $20 billion have flowed in again. Just like Michael Saylor, who continues to receive larger loans and keeps investing in the crypto market. Of course, global liquidity is also important. We know that. If we rise here, we can naturally also rise with Bitcoin. Everyone is already talking about global liquidity. And I also find it important to address such things. Because, of course, global liquidity is important to some extent. But what can be even more significant is simply the dominance of stablecoins. And you can clearly see here that the weaker the stablecoin dominance, the stronger Bitcoin can become. These are things that are important. Because even if the M2 supply is currently showing us that we are getting more capital into the markets, this is nothing new. Monetarily, 2025 and 2026 are good years. We see this again here, as we see the cycles of global liquidity in the background. And currently, we have another year ahead of us, where, based on past foundations, we should really receive a lot of liquidity in the markets. And this money first comes into the stablecoins. From the stablecoins, it then flows down into Bitcoin or other altcoins. And at this point, thank you for watching, friends. You know what to do, and until next time, friends. Bye.